Let's start here with Cal, and he says, "Dear God, Saw, I find it hard to bet against Edmonton. Florida's goaltender went from Conn Smythe favorite to scapegoat. Whoever scores first hoists the Lord Stanley."
Tell you what, if Edmonton pots another one really early, I mean, Florida's emotions just have to be on the borderline brink of collapsing right now. Bobrovsky has taken a lot of shots. He's been flopping a little bit more. I mean, but he's been left naked, and they got guys in front of the net. Guys are tipping shots in, etc. I mean, Edmonton is doing everything that Edmonton needs to do to win. And Florida is not the Florida we saw in the first 3 games, nor the Florida that posted the wins against the Rangers. This would be great if they can take this trophy back to Canada. I mean, and on Thursday, I'll just tip you now. If you're a hockey fan on Thursday, please argue with us. This Edmonton Oiler franchise, the Connor McDavid era versus Gretzky and Messier. Make sure Thursday you have an opinion. Don't be lame. Show me your game on Thursday on Fans Forum. Let's move on. Next question.
Okay, let's go here to Richard, and he says, "Well, for Fans Forum, I no longer consume my sports on local radio. I get it through live streams and podcasts now. Ben and Woods is everything that I hate about corporate sports media."
Some guys do it well. Some guys don't do it well. Some guys are told what to do and not to do. Just a different era in sports talk radio. It'd be very hard right now to operate under the parameters of what corporate radio wants you to do. But that's why podcasts have exploded. And that's why what we're doing has been really freaking successful. I think we're 16 months into the mission. And John gets more access to the numbers that I do. But yeah, we're delivering a lot of content to a lot of people. And whether you agree or disagree, doesn't matter. People are partaking, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and the format that we're doing works really well, in the digital world, because you've got your 10 or so Hacksaw's headlines. We break them down into segments so hockey fan can get their hockey comments, etc. So it all works very nicely. But yeah, the world is changing in sports talk radio. But I do want to give a shout out to Ben and Woods. I saw a post that they did. They have their tier 1 baseball team that's an adult team, and they have Will Myers show up for them, and he was playing ball. So that's kind of cool. So the world has changed in sports talk radio. You were the pioneer.
We did it. Blame me. You're damn right. We were blippy and brilliant. And what we're doing now in modern America is absolutely amazing. And just understand this, people. We're doing 21st century broadcasting via podcasts, and the host still has a Royal manual typewriter in his garage. Can't use it because I can't get it fixed because it's broken.
Well, I'm dragging you, kicking and screaming into the 21st century.
On we go. Thanks for being with us.
Okay, let's go here to Rick. He says, "I'm a sports fan, and I work with many sports fans. And basketball is an afterthought. The game is unwatchable. The league knows this is obviously by having that ridiculous in-season tournament gimmick."
Well, there's a lot of gimmicks that I don't buy. There's not a lot of defenses being played until we get to the postseason and playoffs. But there's so many great athletes. I mean, if you ever sat courtside, I had the uniqueness when I was working both in San Diego and Los Angeles to actually sit courtside in one of the expensive seats, where Jack Nicholson was across the way from me, to sit and see how great these athletes are, how explosive they are, how physical they are, how dynamic they are. I mean, it is a great game, but I'm sorry, I can't get excited about a Sacramento Portland game the third week of November. It's almost as if they made the season meaningless. Postseason is really good. Some of the matchups, and they're really great teams, but the rest of it to me and they don't play very much defense at all. And it's just run, gun, and shoot threes and hope they go in the hole. So it's just not the NBA that I'm used to. I mean, we love Showtime, and we love Bird and McHale and Robert Parrish. And obviously way back in the day, the Red Auerbachs of the world. It's just a different game to watch. But boy, those athletes are phenomenal players.
Well, back in all those previous years of the NBA, not only were they great athletes, but they were very interesting personalities. And you look at guys like today, like Jason Tatum of the Celtics. I mean, he's just sort of a flat line on a personal level. But to your point about seeing the game courtside, I've never been courtside for an NBA game, but I was at a San Diego State against Nevada Reno, and I had courtside seats in Reno, and that was a lot of fun. And boy, what a different perspective. But for an NBA game, they're like twice as big.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I know you have reverence for the bad boys in Detroit, Ricky Mahorn and all those guys. And You can tell people you're a Dennis Rodman fan. I don't know how many tattoos you have, but that's okay.
Rodman was terrific.
Yeah,
I mean, even when he was just the worm with the Pistons, he was great. And all the things that he did to go on, that was a personality. Michael Jordan was a personality in his own way. Charles Barkley, I mean, Magic was terrific. I mean, there's been so many great personalities in the game. But today, who?
It's a different era.
Yeah, who?
And they're all making $43 million a year. Which
Yeah.
I think indirectly, Rick might sign this memo, probably turns people off the amount of money that everybody's making, not just the super. I'm talking everybody's making 43
Well, they
million.
deserve it. I mean, look how much money they're generating in that league.
Thank you for the basketball call. Go ahead.
Okay, let's go to Manny. He says the Lakers can't tank because they traded away all their first-round picks.
Well, they do now have 3 first-round picks back in the cash register. You can't trade consecutive year number ones, Manny, but they do have a 17 pick. They do a 19 pick, and they will have a 21 pick. So they have 3 picks they can use going forward, but they've traded so many picks away. It's just really hard. And their drafts, as whatever number ones they've still had, have not really panned out. So there's no doubt they got to change the chemistry here. And if they trade 2 number ones in the DeJounte Murray deal, then he better be the right guy, because there won't be any future picks once LeBron retires. It's going to go away. So they're really at a crossroads. And now they got a new philosophy with JJ Redick, and they want to run and they want to shoot threes, which means they're going to have a different type of player to complement that roster.
But is LeBron a run and 3 kind of guy?
He's a running down the floor and force it to the basket kind of guy, but he can run and dish. If you got other guys who can shoot threes, D'Angelo Russell's going to exit. He's going to opt out of his contract, or he might get traded somewhere else. And, he was, whatever legitimacy they had at 3 was probably more him, and he was hot and cold, inconsistent.
Yeah. I mean, Austin Reeves has a little bit of play there as well, but I kind of appreciate the fact that there's a new coach, so you're going to have a new system, and you might need to change the personnel to fit the system.
And they've kept changing personnel 4 years in a row, and it hasn't really worked.
No, they're constantly tinkering, and it's not right.
Next question.
Let's go here to Emmanuel. He says, Ron Washington is good for the Angels. Artie Moreno is bad for the Angels. Artie Moreno is starting to challenge Frank McCourt as the worst owner of a big city franchise.
A lot of people probably agree with you there. I'll say this. Their kids are hanging in there. Logan O'Hoppe, the power hitting catcher. Zach Neto has played really well at shortstop and has kind of become a clubhouse leader. But, at the end of the day, there is no Mike Trout. There is no Anthony Rendon. Half the pitching staff is staggering, and the other half's hurt. They just don't have enough players. And they got budget space. And, unless there's a new general manager coming in, it must be hard to be Artie Moreno and have all this money and be so disliked to the point you can't put your face out in public. Even at his own stadium, he sits in a closed box and he never interacts with anybody. And he doesn't walk the concourses anymore. And he did that when he first bought the team from Disney. I think it's a sad commentary about what he's become or what he's allowed to happen to the franchise during his reign. So just rebuilding with kids is just so bloody hard. And Ron Washington's doing the best he can humanly do, but they're so far underneath water. They're not even close to being a 500 team. And I don't know what's left in the farm system either, because they're jamming these kids up there and trying to hope they can stay healthy and get better.
Remember when Artie Moreno bought the team and he cut the price of beer?
Yeah.
And everyone was like, this is the greatest owner of all time. But it makes you wonder, what is he thinking right now? Is he thinking from a business perspective, hey, we're making money, we're profitable, let's just kind of keep this thing going? Or is he thinking, I want to win, and he sincerely wants to win, but he always makes bad decisions? Or, what is going through his mind?
What was it 8 months ago? We did a commentary on the Angels on our podcast, and I was the one that recommended, and he was under enormous fire at that point. Artie, you need to talk to baseball executives who've been successful. You probably remember me saying, you should call Larry Lucchino. You should call Theo Epstein. Find out from them what works to make organizations successful. Well, sadly, Larry Lucchino passed away. Theo Epstein wound up going back to the Boston Red Sox as a consultant. So it's obvious that he's staying with the people that he trusts and believes in, but there's no track record of success. So why would you just continue to do the same stuff year after year after year his general manager's contract is up at the end of the season. Are you gonna hit the eject button on Perry Manassian? Who's the next guy coming in? Is he going to have any better hope of winning if you're not going to fund it correctly or operate it correctly or make the right decisions?
See, I just don't understand the strategy. I mean, with all those resources in that market, they should be a really good franchise, and they're not. And they've only had a few moments of greatness. They won the World Series about 20 years ago.
That's with the Disney ownership. He inherited it, and they lived off a couple more good years, and then it's been down ever since.
Exactly. So it's just a mystery what's going on in Anaheim.
Thank you for the note. Go ahead. Next one.
Okay, let's go here to Chris. And he says, this just in off the sports wire. If WNBA players didn't make layups look like blindfolded over the shoulder half-court shots, Caitlin Clark would break the all-time league assist record by late 2025.
She's playing better. They're playing better. I think she's still being abused. She just refuses to drag herself into any of the raging controversy about society things that people are trying to drag her name into the middle of. All she wants to do is play basketball and make the Indiana Fever better. It is interesting. Angel Reese has had a bunch of really good games in the last week and a half. Angel's been a magnet for the controversy because she's with the Chicago Sky. By the way, Chicago has a worse record than the Fever, and the Fever started 3-10. Wow. So Caitlin's gotten better as we've gone along, and there's just a lot of really good players there. The LA Sparks lost their top young star. What's her name?
She's just a tall blonde.
Yeah, she just blew out her knee. And she's gone for the season. Tough injury there, ACL. So the TV ratings continue to be through the roof. They're selling out games, and it's all a byproduct of the personas that are in the WNBA, and obviously the greatness of who Caitlin Clark is. But she's interesting. She's not been dragged into the screeching and yelling about race and all this other stuff that some of the national media wants to make it a hot topic.
Well, compare that. I mean, compare Angel Reese with Jason Tatum, Caitlin Clark with, any of the other NBA stars. There's a lot more personality in the WNBA. That's why they've been selling.
A bit of flamboyance.
Yeah, and it's good. And that's what makes it entertaining. I mean, that's the whole reason we watch sports, is because it's fun to watch sports. So I love everything going on in the WNBA. But I did see that Caitlin Clark in that game against Chicago, she had like 13 assists. So, she can play the game in different ways. But Angel Reese, she's the queen of the double-double.
Oh, she's been pretty doggone impressive. She didn't play real well real early. And post the Caitlin Clark hard foul incident in which she was clapping and took a lot of heat, she's played a lot better basketball. She's a fine player. And so it's the league is just rocketed in terms of popularity, and everybody's paying attention. And that's what this whole thing is about. And there's some pretty good players in WNBA.
Yeah, it's all good, man. I love it.
Yeah, this guy likes Dennis Rodman. Anything that's got flair to it, that's him.
Yeah, and Trinity Rodman, the soccer player too. All right, let's go here to Graham. And he says, with all due respect, we don't need any more AJ Preller apologists. I think he's talking about me. He's been given adequate time and cash to build the team for a World Series run.
Well, everything's changing. The rules have changed. Tom Seidler and Eric Grupner used the word accountability when they took over after Peter passed on. If this is not a playoff team, if this thing goes, a couple games and out in October, well, one of the topics on the table then will be, you're going to stay with AJ Preller or not. I mean, he's had 3 winning seasons in 9+ years. One of them was a COVID season. Maybe I'm taking a lot of heat. People say I'm too negative. Please tell me, in the 9 years that all the decisions have been made by AJ Preller, we've had 3 months of great baseball, right? That was the time they got into the playoffs and they upset the Dodgers and went to the NLCS with the Phillies. Those are the only 3 months in 9 years of really dynamic Padre baseball. And yet he still continues to have a job, and he's still got the strengths of a multi-year contract. And you're not willing to hold him accountable? I'm just asking the question. You can root for him. I don't have any problem with how you think about him or how you think about me. But 3 months in 9 years, you can't tell me, cheerleader, that you're satisfied with that.
Well, I'm not, but I mean, I've gone through the dregs of the Padres over the last 2 or 3 decades. And I know over the last like 2 seasons, they're like even Steven 500, which is amazing. But Peter Seidler said, AJ Preller is excellence. Yeah. That's what he said. That was his quote. So, I mean, let's just hypothetically say you blow out AJ Preller. Well, what's the new GM going to do? You're locked into all these big deals. You're still going to be stuck in the same situation.
No, I concur because everybody in the farm system is staggering right now. Rob Snelling, the next pitcher on the chain, is 1-7 with an ERA of 5.82 in AA. 1-7 has totally stalled.
Oh, those are young kids. They're learning their craft.
They're learning their craft, but that's supposed to be the next wave, and that's
he has to go out there and learn a knuckleball, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we move on.
We move on. Some more Padre comments, and this one is from Viquette. Says, "What's the story with the Tatis injury? Why is this team so quiet about it?"
Well, when he got beamed on the elbow, I thought, holy cow, that looks like a fracture because he took a 97-mile-an-hour pitch right on the padded elbow. They say it's a deep bruise. The bigger injury, I think, is the quad injury. And those things don't heal. That takes time. And you don't want him going out there and aggravating it or tearing it. So that's the biggest issue with Tatis is I think their grave concern about, can we rehab this quad? Now, maybe he has to go on the deal, and you can put him on the deal retroactive. So, if he's missed 5 days already, that's 5 days that counts, and let him do the intensive therapy. So we'll find out. Maybe he winds up on the disabled list sometime this week, and you can spin it back that he doesn't serve all 10 or all 15 days. But that's a big issue. And you watch Manny's gait. Manny's not 100%. There are some stretches he runs hard. Other stretches he does not. So they are what they are. They're dinged up, and you got the Darvish situation and the Musgrove situation. They don't have depth now. They luckily Cronenworth has been just rock solid, and Jackson Merrill is he's hotter than 111 degrees in my driveway right now. So he's done well. But, once they get through Washington, they go back on the road. They got a 9-game roadie, and they go play first place Cleveland. They'll go play first place Baltimore. And by the way, they get the first place Dodgers again early week of August. So
they just took 3 out of 4 from the first place Brewers.
Yeah, the Brewers look like ragtag, though. They don't look like a legitimate first place team in a rather weak ass division.
Well, there was one play in one of the Brewers games where there was a ball hit into the right field corner, and you could see Tatis was sort of galloping or hobbling.
It wasn't Tatis going after the
ball.
No,
it wasn't the same guy.
But he's hurt.
Yeah, so you could tell there's a lot going on. I don't think the Padres have been quiet about it. They just keep rolling him out there because I'm sure he wants to play. He's probably getting a lot of therapy from all the trainers. And they're definitely better with him in the lineup than, putting Tyler Wade in right field.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I don't critique. I mean, the guys that are not playing the way they had to play, Machado and Tatis, that's because they're dinged. And unless you've come back from surgery, you don't know how hard it is for Machado to hit the ball with the power and authority that he used to hit the ball with prior to the elbow surgery. And let's give him space. They got half a season. And the thing is, you just don't want Manny to re-injure the hip, and you don't want Tatis to tear the quad because that's a real significant injury.
Yeah, big time. Hey, want to go talk social media comments?
Oh, here it comes.
Here it comes. Okay, let's go. Yeah, let's go to the one where people were hating on you, Hacksaw. And this is from Nestor, and he says, "I'm never like what you have to say, always negative. Why don't you help out the club and contribute? Because they wouldn't want you."
So I should just cheerlead irregardless of the failures of the Padres, Nestor. That's what you're saying. You're telling me you want me to lie to you on my podcast. I play devil's advocate. This is my opinion based on the data I have, my opinion on Preller overpaying for virtually all those draft picks and all those international players, and you don't want me to critique where they are. I'll give you a prime example. I like Adrian Morion a lot, the kid that came out of Cuba.
Yeah.
The kid was in Mexico. They signed him to an $11 million deal. But because of the baseball tax rules, they had to pay an $11 million tax. That's a $22 million investment. He is now in I think it's his 7th year in the organization, and he's a 1-inning pitcher. He's not in the rotation. He's a 1-inning pitcher for a $22 million investment. And I should not be critical of that investment? You want me to tell you he's going to the Hall of Fame? Come on now, Nestor. Same thing. They paid $14 million to get a Cuban outfielder, Jorge Oña, the same year they got Morion. He's gone. He's out of baseball. AJ gave him $14 million. And I should not hold the general manager accountable for that? Do you know who the ace of the Colorado Rockies pitching staff is now? Calvin Quantrill.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2.82 ERA, Colorado.
Holy crap.
And
That's
they
good.
overpaid him to get him out of Stanford,
Mhm.
got him here, force fed him, traded him to Cleveland. And virtually anybody that we got in the Quantrill trade, including Josh Naylor, who's become a star in Cleveland, is doing things in Cleveland, first place Cleveland, and the Padres don't have any of those guys here. And I should not be critical of that. Come on now. I'm just giving you the facts. These are my opinions on the facts. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do shish goomba, everything is beautiful, kumbayana podcast radio. Now, if they do something great, aka Jackson Merrill, what Preller's been able to find, I'm going to salute him. But in the big picture, Nestor, you've had 3 months of good baseball in 9 years, and you want me to give the general manager a vote of confidence? You're giving the general manager a vote of confidence? Hey, everybody's entitled to an opinion, Nestor. That's mine. You got yours. That's okay. But, pal, I'm not 62 games under 500 like your general manager is in 9 years. Okay, I'm not going to beat up the guy who joined us in Fans Forum, but hey, thanks for the input. You asked a question, you got an answer. Don't like the answer? Too bad for you.
Well, this isn't the Padres flagship radio station, so you're free to say what you want. And, hanging out with you, you praise the Padres when they deserve praise, and you're critical of them, and you keep repeating, 9 years, just everything but except the 3-month run. Yeah, there's a lot to criticize. And I agree with you. Morejon, why isn't Morejon being groomed to be a starter?
Well, he should be now because he's finally healthy. He had a lot of injuries. His first 4 years, I think he had 5 different arm injuries in the minors. Now he's finally healthy, and I think he's matured, and I think they've taught him how to pitch. Dude should probably be in the rotation. I mean, even if he pitches 4 innings and Randy Vasquez pitches 3 or 4 innings, use them. They're so short-staffed in the rotation instead of this one inning per outing guy for a guy that you gave $22 million to.
Yeah, and he's actually done quite well this year. So it's good to see him kind of perform. But remember, he was in the rotation like 3 or 4 years ago, and then he had Tommy John surgery. He's just been cursed.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, Ryan Weathers. There's a whole collection of group. The guys who were here that they gave up on or weren't patient enough or got hurt in some cases. But just talking about the topics on the table, that's how I read it. Nestor, great to have you with us. We'll talk more. I'm sure we'll argue more. Go ahead, John.
Okay, let's get another Lakers comment. This is from Last Name Dad. He says, I'm not an NBA guy, but a SoCal guy is a Lakers fan. I'm always wondering, as a very casual fan, how does Jeannie Buss get away with what she does?
I don't know that anybody holds her accountable, and it is her organization. I mean, you just think, you go to Crypt.com Arena, and there's 17 banners of greatness and all the retired jerseys and just phenomenal tradition. And now we're talking about everybody getting excited. Gee, do you think the Lakers, John, can be a play-in team this year and finish in 9th place? I mean, Laker basketball's greatness has been replaced by mediocrity, and that's the way I view it. Nobody holds her accountable. She is the decision maker with her cadre of consultants around her. Everybody's screeching. We hired J.J. Redick, no coaching experience. Well, they hired the general manager, Rob Pelinka, who is, quote, a former player agent. What's his background? And 33 player acquisitions later over a 4-year window. Oh, geez, we made the playoffs with the 9th team in the play-in. That's what Laker basketball has become. So I don't think she's going to sell the team unless this whole thing craters. And they're going to work real hard to make sure it doesn't.
See, my theory is that she's the daughter of Jerry Buss. So she's going to get a lot of love, because the Laker fans rightfully love Dr. Buss.
Sure.
But it is interesting. We're always ragging on Artie Moreno. We're always ragging on a lot of other owners, but Jeannie Buss gets a pass.
Right now she does, but I mean, if LeBron opts out and leaves, what would happen to the franchise if LeBron ruptured an Achilles tendon at age 39 and could not play the whole season?
Game over for that guy.
Lottery, baby.
Yeah.
That'd be a 26-win season. Laker fan, would you like to have a 26-win team? Jeez. But she's not been held accountable yet. Maybe that's coming.
Okay, let's go here and talk a little NFL with the Chargers. This is from Matt. He says, Lee, we have more complete football team and more depth than we've had in a long time.
You're optimistic based on what's on this piece of paper. Okay, I understand that. That's what being a fan is. Look at my depth chart. Look at whom we drafted, etc. But they have yet to do it. And as we go to the opening of camp in a month, Matt, the only thing I can ask you, Do you have anybody on your roster who's caught 100 balls in a season, aka what Keenan Allen and Mike Williams did? Do you have anybody that represents what Antonio Gates used to be in terms of pass receptions at tight end? Do you have anybody that has 1,800 or 2,100 all-purpose yards like Austin Eckler had? No. You got the kid quarterback, and you got a bunch of names on paper that you hope are going to pan out. Now, I do like their offensive line. They got 3 number 1 draft picks. I got into an argument with a Raider guy who's saying, our roster is better than yours. I said, you're so full of crap. It's unbelievable. I said, who's your quarterback? Are they equal to Justin Herbert? Come on now. Now, I grant you got a really good defensive line led by Mad Max Crosby. You got any linebackers? You got any Pro Bowlers in your secondary? You don't have Derwin James, do you? No, but that's fans being fans, and that's all on paper and looks good. So until they've done it, you're going to have to sales pitch me hard that they've arrived. Now, Harbaugh's special. There's no doubt. He's won everywhere he's been. But he's not at Michigan, where he's got 7 number 1 draft picks on his roster on the field. He's with the Bolts, where they had 1 number 1 pick in John Alt, and I hope the kid wide receiver, McConkey, is going to be a star. Until you've done it in a 17-game schedule, I just think you have to withhold your enthusiasm. But you're a fan, so I grant you that opportunity. But you and I don't quite agree about their depth right now until they prove it in September and October, and then we'll talk more about it. I do like Justin Herbert, and at the end of the day, I'm the one that coined the phrase, Justin Herbert 17-0. Hope it happens. Dean Spanos, hope you're 0-17.
That makes no sense. So yeah, Raider fans still thinks Lester Hayes is in the defensive backfield, right? Yeah, Raider fans, you got to love them. They're loyal to their team, and I appreciate that. But I think that there's a chance here that Jim Harbaugh might have the secret stuff, the secret sauce, because wherever he's gone, he's had a lot of success.
And he's built it. He's built it with toughness. I mean, Stanford may have gotten smart guys. They didn't get studs. Well, by the time they got to the finish line, he had studs at Stanford. And obviously he went in and he changed 49er football. And he went in, and what a job he did at Michigan, because they were kind of down and out. And within 2 or 3 years, they reinvented Michigan football. But that's having lots of number 1 draft picks, access to those type kids at Michigan or at Stanford. The NFL is a little bit different set of circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be great to watch them this season.
Sure.
The Rams, Chargers, which team is ahead of the other?
Oh, I think the Rams right now, but the Chargers obviously have the enthusiasm, and this guy's got a track record. We'll see how this guy's track record works and how quickly they can get these young guys to be really good. I mean, at the end of the day, you had a proven commodity. I have a philosophy. You don't get rid of talent, a.k.a. Austin Eckler, unless you got talent to replace him. Well, they went out and they got Gus Edwards, power back, Baltimore, injury history. J.K. Dobbins, third down back, Baltimore, real injury history. Those are the guys they're bringing in to replace my guy, Austin Eckler. I don't know. That to me is an awful big reach, awful big gamble. You had a proven commodity and didn't want to pay him, and you let him go. You're going to try something different. Fascinating.
Did the Chargers get any running backs in the draft?
They drafted they do have a third back that they drafted, and the fourth back is Isaiah Spiller, kid out of Texas A&M, who had a really good college career, but he's just been a backup, and he hasn't shown much because he hasn't had much chance. So the third back will be in rotation, but I mean, the heavy-duty guy is going to be Gus Edwards, and then J.K. Dobbins will be the third down back. But both those guys have a significant amount of injury history on their resume.
And that's what Harbaugh wants, is that power running game.
Yep.
And you got all your eggs in that one basket of Gus Edwards. And then if he gets hurt, then what?
No, then you have a very different offense. But they do have 3 number 1s. I like their offensive line and the potential of their offensive line. But until you've done it, you haven't done it.
You haven't done it. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's get a comment here. It's kind of a crazy comment about golf. This is from Thrill House. He says, how about better TV coverage, innovation with cameras, drones, microphones, better courses like Whistling Straits, better dress codes? Golfers look so dorky.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because Bryson DeChambeau lost his mind this weekend in Nashville, aside from bar hopping with the U.S. Open trophy and going to every pub while he was honky-tonking. He was so pissed yesterday in the final round of LIV Nashville because he's getting ready to putt, ready to shoot, and people are yakking and screaming, and there's a drone that flies over him as he's bringing the club back to putt, and he totally botched the putt, and he just looked up in the sky, and he's screeching. Said, "Why are people doing this?" Well, it's the LIV where nobody gives a crap about history or what's right or wrong or how you handle yourself on the greens. They created a different aura. It's like Saturday Night Live golf. So there it is. So, and it's odd that the thrill brings that up because here's DeChambeau, who's won all this money over there, and now he's peeved about the ambiance while he's trying to make a 14-foot putt, to climb back to the top of the leaderboard. So and nobody's watching the tournament. I texted you. I watched a bunch of holes in the LIV as I was going back and forth between that and the Travelers, and they were on the 17th green in the final two groups of the LIV. I counted, there were 12 fans around the green.
12
on the 17th green.
Unbelievable.
And then they went to 18. And, John Rahm and DeChambeau were part of the group that were chasing the leaders, didn't get there. On the 18th, there might have been 100 people total on the 18th green in Nashville, some standing, some in a skybox, maybe 100, compared to what Scheffler and Kim were playing in the final hole at the Travelers in Connecticut.
Yeah, not counting the protesters, of course. But I generally agree with Thrill here about having more innovation in the way they cover the game. And it does remind me a little bit about that Tommy Lasorda line. You remember that one where they were asking what's the hardest thing to do in sports? And someone said hit a golf ball. And Lasorda's like, that's the stupidest thing in the world. You got a ball on a tee. It's not moving. And everyone's quiet. Try being in a stadium with 50,000 people screaming and a guy throwing 100 miles at your head. So golf is just too
stoic.
Yeah, stoic, conservative, what have you. And the clothing that they wear, I mean, they've come a long ways, but it would be nice to have a little more entertaining things to look at when they're playing golf.
At least we buy some tickets, go to the LIV. We'll get to stand on the 17th green with 12 other people because nobody's going to the tournaments and surely nobody's watching it.
That's a good view from there.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed our Monday bonus podcast. It is so cool what you're doing with Fans Forum. One of these days, what we're going to do is we're going to for one day, we'll change the format. And all we'll do will be take input on Fans Forum. We won't have many topics on the table. We'll just let you drive this thing. Just don't drive it off the road into the ground. But listen, we hope you've enjoyed what we're doing. Monday bonus podcast, a regular Thursday podcast at 1 o'clock. Our podcast is brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 9 stores to serve you in San Diego, and by North County Eye Center, offering free vision tests to all of our viewers. Just call them at North County and say, Hacksaw sent me. John, have yourself a great week. We will see you come Thursday. Got some fireworks planned because I'm going to be on the road Thursday. I'm not going to Ireland like you did, but we're gonna do a 2-city, 2-state, 2-country podcast Thursday. So we'll look forward to that.